I will be discussing about the planes and perspective and the elements of art, which is the auditory. Planes and perspective. Some art forms work with actual spaces, such as sculptors, architects, and stage designers. However, with pictorial art that is two-dimensional, notions of depth and hence perspective requires the implementation of principles and techniques in creating an illusion that will fool the eye to three-dimensionality when in reality there is none. Picture art goal is to show the three-dimensional structure of a scene, can be a certain angle of a certain things, people, objects, or a landscape. So let's have a recap about two-dimensional. What is two-dimensional art? Well, two-dimensional art refers to any form of visual art that exists in two dimensions, which means that it should possess the dimensions of length and width, but does not possess depth. Examples are paintings, drawing, and photography. So let's move with three-dimensional art. Three-dimensional art has all the dimensions of height, width, and depth. It takes more physical space than the 2D art, and it can be seen or viewed from all directions. Picture plane is the actual surface of the painting or drawing where no illusion of a third dimension exists, and here the elements lay flat. So this is the example of a picture plane. So as you can see, the elements here are flat and does not consist of any illusion or any three-dimensional art. During the Renaissance, specifically in the 15th century, chiaroscuro was developed. So what is chiaroscuro exactly? Chiaroscuro is an Italian term, means light dark. It's a high contrast of lighting technique, a treatment of light and shade in painting. For example, here are sketching. So let's move on. Linear perspective changed the way pictorial representation was done. So linear perspective is a system of creating an illusion of depth on a flat surface or on a picture plane. Credited to Renaissance artists, its early proponents include Leon Battista Alberti, Paolo Uccello, and architect Filippo Brunelleschi in the early 15th century, who were published in Alberti's On Painting in 1435. The pictura, or in English mean on painting, is a treatise or commentary. So on painting is a treatise written by Leon Battista Alberti. This work gets out the principles of distance, dimension, and proportion, instructs the painter on how to use the rules of composition, representation, light, and color to create work that is graceful and pleasing to the eye. Leon Battista Alberti was an Italian Renaissance humanist, author, artist, architect, poet, priest, linguist, philosopher, and cryptographer. As what I have said, he was the one who wrote the On Painting book. Paolo Uccello, born Paolo di Dono, was an Italian painter and mathematician who was notable for his pioneering work on visual perspective in art, while Filippo Brunelleschi, considered to be a founding father of Renaissance architecture, was an Italian architect, designer, and sculptor, and is now recognized to be the first modern engineer, planner, and soil construction survivor. So these three are the three proponents of the on painting in the Renaissance period. And a trivia: on painting is one of the book read by Leonardo da Vinci and was influenced by it. Now let's move on to three types of perspective, which are 1-point, 2-point, and 3-point perspective. 1-point perspective, often used in depicting roads, trucks, hallways, or rows of trees, this type of perspective shows parallel lines that seem to converge at a specific and long vanishing point along the horizon line. So one-point perspective is a pioneering drawing method that shows how things appear to get smaller as they get further away, converging towards a single vanishing point on the horizon line. As you can see in the picture shown here, as the road gets further, it gets smaller. So this is a type of a three-dimensional art. Two-point perspective pertains to a painting or drawing that makes use of two vanishing points which can be placed anywhere along the horizon line. It is often used in depicting structures such as houses or buildings and landscapes that are viewed from a specific corner. So two-point perspective means that there are two vanishing points on the horizon line. So as you can see in the painting, the Paris Street, Rainy Day 1877, painted by Gustave. At the back of this two person on the front painting, there are building, and as you can see in the left and right, there are two vanishing points, whereas it gets further, it gets smaller. So the difference between 1 and 2 are there are one vanishing point, and here in two-point perspective there are two. In this type of perspective, the viewer is looking at the scene from above or below. As the name suggests, it makes use of the three vanishing points, each corresponding to each axis of the scene. So, three-point perspective is the most complex form of perspective drawing. Three-point perspective uses three vanishing points to draw each subject. So these three vanishing points, first is here at the top, second is the left and right bottom, or the base or the picture plane of this illustration shown. Let's move on the elements of art. Auditory. One of the most widespread forms of art whose intersection in daily life is most perceptible as music. Music is sound organized in a specific time. It is considered an implement to cultural activities answering a specific role or function. During the times when man had to hunt for food, music was used as a corral to herd animals or as an element of specific rituals or rites. Singing or dancing to music was also often included in opportunities for members of society to gather and interact. Some are adept with the skill and sense to produce music, while others consume it as listeners, audiences, and even performers. So one of the most significant art we use is music. Music is one of the most influential form of art, and we use, listen, and produce music in our everyday life. Since the dawn of time, there is the presence or existence of music. If there is an important quality that music has, it is having the capacity to transcend barriers, even that of differences in language or conversations in sound. Different demographics, groups, and individuals may have specific preferences as to the genre of music. However, in order to establish this preference, listeners often take to its elements for its evaluation. So one of the most significant goal of music is to express and connect to everyone, no matter what race they are or whatever language they have, because in music our differences are one. So of course, music has its own elements. So these are the rhythm, dynamics, melody, harmony, timbre, and texture. Rhythm, often associated to the terms beat, meter, and tempo. Rhythm is the element of music that situates it in time. So in rhythm, there are beat, which considered to be the pulse of music. Meter is the number of beats in a measure or how the beats are normally divided. And tempo, which refers to the speed or beats or sound in music. Classical terms are used to refer to the variations in tempo some which are largo, andante, moderato, allegro, vivace, accelerando, rallentado, allargar, allargando, and rubato. I will show you and let you hear the examples of these tempos. Dynamics, the elements of music that refers to the loudness or quietness of music. Classical terms are used to refer to different levels pertaining to this. So here in dynamics, it talks about the loudness and quietness of music. It has different levels which are pianissimo, piano, mezzo piano, mezzo forte, forte, fortissimo. When composers indicate an increase or decrease in loudness, they use the terms crescendo for the former and decrescendo or diminuendo for the latter. And I will also let you listen to the example of these different levels in dynamics. Melody refers to the linear presentation, horizontal of pitch. By horizontal, it means that in musical notation, it is read in succession from left to right. Pitch is the highness or lowness of musical sound. So melody refers to the highness or lowness of a music, or it is also known as pitch. Harmony, if melody is horizontal, harmony is vertical. It arises when pitches are combined to form chords. When several notes are simultaneously played, this refers to a chord. Harmony can be described in terms of its harshness. Dissonance is the harsh sounding combination, while consonance is the smooth sounding combination. So in harmony, it is on leading and chord voicing. Let's move on timbre. Yeah, this is read as timbre, is often likened to the color of music. It is a quality that distinguishes a voice or an instrument from one another. Dependent on the technique, the timbre may give a certain tone or characteristic to music, much like how a painter evokes different effects or impressions onto the canvas. So, timbre describes the quality or character of a sound or voices. Timbre helps your ear distinguish one type of sound production from another. So let's move on to the last element of auditory, which is texture. Texture, the number of melodies, the type of layers, and their relatedness in a composition is the texture of music. It may be monophonic, single melodic line, polyphonic, two or more melodic lines, homophonic, main melody, accompanied by chords. So monophonic single melodic line is characterized by a single unaccompanied melodic line of music, meaning that it's typically sung by a single singer or played by a single instrument player. So in polyphonic is the opposite of monophonic. Here, it can be accompanied by two or more melodic lines. So let's move on to the last. Homophonic is when the main melody is accompanied by other instruments playing different rhythms and notes that support that main melody. So example of this is a singer and a guitarist. That's a homophonic main melody accompanied by chords. And that's all. Thank you.